Yeah.
Astronauts to the moon.
Houston, we have a problem.
Astronauts to the moon.
All right, guys. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka Draziv. Guys, welcome to the show. You're watching us from YouTube. Do comment, like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't, hit that bell icon. And yes, you could become a member of this channel if you want to, or Truth in Plain Sight on Facebook to help us keep going, getting you the shows and all our other productions. And if you're watching us from Flat Earth Research Network group or Heliopsychosis Facebook groups, do comment and tag your friends. Help us grow as the community. And we also have another two groups called World Flat Earth Association and Flatten the Curve. So make sure you guys join that group too. Yes, finally, if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com, realtruthseekers.net, welcome everyone there. And yes, realtruthseekers.com is one of our main sponsors for this show and most of our coming productions. And Real Truth Seekers is not only a uncensored, unshadowbanned platform for all the content creators and for truth seekers. They have so many amazing new features coming always. Their latest features are they have a referral system that where people could refer to other people to get to the platform, and they also have a new wallet system where if you the people you have referred to, and if they are if they share or buy some subscription or package or cloud storage or any kind of streaming services on RTS, you get to keep 30%. So referring each others and growing the community could help you, gain some economically possible. It's totally independent. It's better than we could say YouTube or anything, whatever kind of platform that works around. It's much more happening, so even on RTS. So make sure everyone to check out realtruthseekers.com or realtruthseekers.net. So let's jump into the show, guys. And our host and guest here we have today, our first host that he's on Facebook and on YouTube as Rob Flat Plain Earth, and he's also a host of Heliopsychosis for sure, and also Jesus Christ Universal Truth on Ferret Radio Live. And yes, the star of Flat in the Curve, a helicopter pilot. Yep. Rob, how are you, bro?
Yes, Vika, thank you for the introduction. Yes, I'm a willing and hopefully able contributor to our joint knowledge of the real shape of the Earth. Thanks for the introduction, Vika, and thanks for all of your work in coordinating all of this. First time, first time you and I met, you were asking me if I would like to shoot the documentary Flatten the Curve, and I thought, yeah, exactly, let's go for it. What a great idea that was, and look what it's turned into. 90 minutes and 13 professionals in their fields, all telling the same thing, that the heliopsychosis, the heliocentrism is impossible. Our radar instruments, our flight instruments, our submarine instruments simply cannot work on a spinning ball. Absolutely. 90 minutes of that, and that there is a creator. The scriptures are correct. The NASA and the universities, those are the liars. That was such a beautiful, such a beautiful start to a large swath of sequels that we have available. Can't wait to get started on the second iteration and the third, fourth, and 100th sequels as well. Looks like we've got Gene and a new colleague. We've got James on today. Thanks, Gene. Nice to see you. And James, of course, fellow Canadian. I
Yes,
say
sir.
fellow Canadian because I've spent enough time up there. I consider, and sometimes I meet Canadians. I speak about Canada more than they do in certain ways. So I say I'm at least maybe a third or half Canadian right there. Anyway, so nice meeting you, James. I can't wait to hear your experience. Always in this, I tell everybody that I want to know what you know, Vika and Gene and James. You guys have your experience that you bring into this bonfire. We call a professional or a Socratic seminar, which this is. I can't wait to hear what you bring, James. I know some of what Gene has. Gene's got some great gems of knowledge that he throws in all the time. And Vika, obviously, I haven't even watched all of his videos yet. He's got such great videos. So guys, yes, thank you. I can't wait to talk on this topic. I've got what I know. I can't wait to hear what you guys know on this topic today. Midnight Sun on a Flat Earth, which is obviously it's only possible in the middle, as we know. Can't wait to hear the logic on that. And back to you, Vika. Jesus Christ is the Son of the Most High Creator. That's what my talk show is. Jesus Christ is universal truth, as always. But back to you, Vika. Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you, Rob. Yep, yes, and Flatten the Curve, as I always say, that it's a group effort, and that's why the miracle has happened, because it's a group collaboration. And yeah, and what I wanted to add about it is that we are seeing a pattern. I was speaking with Brett Freeman, the aeronautical engineer from Flatten the Curve, and Francis Miller, who just boarded his ship, and he's gonna be for the next 6 months on the ship, So we were speaking that we are seeing a pattern. We are seeing a pattern of how we say, in the comment section of the documentary and the clips that we have released about the Flatten the Curve. There are so many people coming forward. There are people who are professionals who had never spoken, and they are speaking, and they are saying, you beat another aeronautical engineer, beat another merchant marine or navy or pilots, and this is so amazing to see that, because it's not only waking up people there, it's waking up professionals who were there. So what I mean to say is that everybody who's in Flatten the Curve and taken the first step are the pioneers, are the legends, and everybody's following it up. So it's so amazing about Flatten the Curve. Yes, awesome, brother. And yes, thanks to everybody that we all made it possible. And our next guest, guys, you know him. Sorry, I mean the host. You know him too. He's also a part of our production team and also a host of Heliopsychosis. Jeannie, how are you?
Vikka, thanks, brother. I'm doing really well. Always a pleasure to be here with you guys. Congratulations on all the good news with Flatten the Curve. That's fantastic. I had a feeling that would happen. I think I might have said that earlier too, months ago. that it's going to cause a ripple effect. And it's really good to hear that it could be doing that. Sounds like it is. So congratulations, you guys. It is great to be here with you. You guys are geniuses. And James, nice to meet you too, buddy. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about what you know, what's going on around this place. And
Thank you,
thanks
brother.
to that. No, thank you. And thanks to everybody who's listening, hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate you spending your time with us. And so let's get into it, guys. This should be excellent. Midnight sun. You know, I'll start it off with something. Midnight sun occurs at the Arctic Circle, which is that 23.4 degree tilt, which is the 60th parallel that we can't go past south. Right? So, so there's that, and we'll probably point out some of the stark differences between the North and the South Pole, and with the midnight sun.
23.4.
Yeah,
Subtracted from 90 gives us what, Gene?
That's right, 666. And you know what? I've seen a couple where
It's all
I've seen a few places recently in the past year, actually, that they changed it to 23.5 every once in a while. You see, so I don't know what that's about, but I always heard it was 23.4 or for 90, which leaves you 66.6.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you know, so that's
awesome, bro.
It is.
Thought that might be an interesting place to kick open here.
Nice one, Jeannie. Thanks for
Thanks.
being here, brother, as always.
Thank you.
And yes, and our next, we cannot call him guest anymore because he's a regular. He's almost a host now with us. Also, he is doing some amazing summarizing and monologues of what we are discussing and all morely about flat Earth, and so it's amazing to have him too. Keith, how are you?
Hey, Vikka, it's good to be here. I'm doing real well. Had a great day at the beach, a little sunburn, but it was a good time.
Oh yeah, a bit of summer is left, so we gotta take advantage of that. Nice one, bro. Yes, and our final guest for today, we're having him for first time. As I have heard of him, that he's into astronomy, and yep, we'll let him tell him about himself. James, welcome, James. How are you?
Vikka, it's a pleasure, brother. How is the audio? Can everyone hear me okay, first of all?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Awesome, guys. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, it's an honor to be here. I'm actually very flattered you asked me. And yeah, astronomy is where my passion is. When my awakening occurred, instantly it became, I knew the Earth was flat. And then what became the next most fascinating thing was the cosmos, right? What is the sun and moon and the stars? So I've just been fixated on that for the past 3 years. It's just amazing. I love it. What would you like to know?
Awesome, brother. It's great to have you. Yeah, and yes, your ideas about astronomy and your views. Yeah, maybe it could help also on the topic of what we are discussing today about the midnight sun. So, welcome, brother. It's great to have you.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind, that's refreshing to see, exciting to see that we've got James, an astronomer. Basic astronomy tells us that everything circles around the North Pole, and that the Spanish days of the week are the order of the height of the planet stars that circle overhead. We've got Domingo, which is the sun, and then Lunes, which is Monday, Sunday, and then Monday, which is sun and moon. Monday, moon day. Got it? Okay, sun and moon. Those are the lowest, and then the second highest, and then each of the days of the week show us which the planets are higher. And if we look at the planets and James, are you familiar with the rotation or the circular pattern of the planets? They don't do a circle. They come in, they do a curlicue every now and then. You're familiar with that, James?
Well, this is interesting, right? And I do want to say that in my observations, the apparent rotation of the stars in the north appears to be counterclockwise. But I have something that I would like to say to that, guys, is that sure, it appears counterclockwise, but I would also like to say that the sun and moon move in a clockwise rotation around the North Pole,
Yeah,
aka
correct.
Polaris. So my theory on this is that in actuality, in the north, the stars are doing the same thing. And if I can just explain for a second what I mean, is sure, when we do a time lapse of the stars rotating in the north, it appears to be counterclockwise, but we have to remember that the stars are parallel to the ground, just like the sun and moon are. So that same rotation could in fact be, in my theory, clockwise. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but am I making sense in my articulation of what I'm observing?
That's a
How,
new concept that I have not been aware of that the stars in the northern, close to the center, appear to travel the opposite of everywhere else. That's new to me, so I'd have to think on that.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't know.
never heard of that.
can I explain
I
just
like.
for a second? If we look at the sun and moon, they are definitely going from a 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock
There
rotation.
we go. Yeah, exactly.
If you're
Right.
facing the North
All
Pole,
the other firmament, the firmament. Now, James, please, along with this, please talk about the firmament travels Aries failure, right? 1871 demonstrated that the firmament, the stars in the firmament, rotate once every 24 hours. If you don't mind, start there and then migrate into the apparent observation that they somehow travel the opposite direction in the near the center.
well, this is it, right? I mean, there's obviously theories about what the stars appear to be doing, and we have to do first-hand observations to verify what we are actually
Okay,
told.
observation is the highest form of science. Yes.
Correct.
All
So
right,
what I
go.
do, I just simply take an observation point where I observe the cosmos from the same point every night, and I make the observation of, what I'm seeing. And essentially, I just record it and upload it.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
analyze what we see, of course.
correct.
Do you have a YouTube
What
channel?
could be done?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
IJAG9 YouTube. Go ahead. It's IJAG9 on YouTube. You'll find me there. Basically, I've
Okay, great.
just just documenting what I see, and that's that. And as honest as I can, in sincerity. And I think that's what you'll see on my YouTube page, an honest astronomy account of what I'm seeing.
All right, what could be happening? The movement of all the planets or the stars or the luminaries. It depends also on the point of the observer. The normal movement is supposed to be east to west. Okay, be it sun, moon, star, everything. So anywhere on this plane, any observer looking should see the direction going east to west. So you could be facing anywhere. You could be, for other people, observer would look opposite. But that's one of the more important thing to remember, is that it depends always on the point of the observer, and it's always east to west. Yep.
Correct.
You want to add something?
Yeah, and just to say, Vikka, the stars have to follow the same path as the sun and moon. They have to, and moving in that
Exactly.
way, right? So it's not as though
Exactly.
the sun and moon are not moving in a counterclockwise rotation in the north. So that's why I definitely challenge the flat Earth theory that the northern hemiplane is receiving counterclockwise star rotation. I challenge that. I say it's moving clockwise. It's just an illusion of perspective due to the perhaps convex dome that is over top of us. But I'm going to record it and let you guys observe the results so we can have an honest account of what's going on.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. So
Yeah.
getting into the topic, the midnight sun is supposed to be a natural phenomena, that is observed from the north of the Arctic Circle, like on dates close to a summer solstice, where the sun can be seen for 24 hours, so turning 360-degree without hiding. And depending on how far north the observer is, the sun could be seen for several days or weeks, rising and falling as usual, but without completely hiding behind the horizon. Everybody's familiar with that phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Can I ask though? Has anyone
No.
actually recorded the sun in the north being above the horizon, or are we just seeing daylight? There's a big difference, daylight and sunlight. I'm sure you guys know that,
Right.
right? Has there been an
All I've
Yeah,
honest?
but
all I've ever seen is recordings, and over the years, there's more and more and more people recording the 24-hour sun, and even if it's clips of, every hour they'll put a 10-second clip, 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 clip. But there's more and more and more. But I've never seen it.
I've never seen an honest account of the northern daylight 24-hour. I mean, if
No,
I was there, I'd be doing it. But no one else is up north of the Nikon P1000. Who's a truther, right? We
no,
just
that's what I mean. There's more and more you see on Facebook and YouTube. There's a lot
correct.
more than there was, just a few years back.
Very true.
Yeah.
for example, here in Spain, during the summer, the sun sets at around 9:30, 10 p.m. But there's still light 10:30, or a little bit more. So imagine, Spain is not even in so much north. Then you have France, Germany, Scandinavia, Norway. So for sure, the light hours have to go beyond 20 hours. If maybe not the sun, but the light.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point though, James, because now that there's more and more video, the 24-hour sun really does point out a nice difference between daylight and sunlight.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
that's
really, really.
key, I think, Jeannie, is that there is a massive difference between daylight and sunlight.
Oh,
So sure,
100, yeah,
right?
absolutely,
And
100%.
what is causing these colors in the north? Is it perhaps, well, like we were speaking about, the noble gases in the atmosphere is
Right.
becoming agitated by the light, the concentrated light we know as the sun.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, James, I want to mention that. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago. When it goes there, the the noble gases, we do see a form of, and I will say this: we see the aurora borealis, as we call the northern lights. It seems like we see some where the sun is tight there in the middle. And then when we were doing our broadcast, webcast, Kevin mentioned the northern lights, and it was sunset, and I could look out my window and I saw sunset, and I realized, hey, you know what? It looks like when the sun goes away, right, we see the sunset. It seems this, and I want to talk about the difference, and you're exactly right. The Bible says there was sunlight, there was daylight before the sun was created. Absolutely, that's a huge point you bring up there. I would like you to talk more on that, James. I've submitted this on this channel before. Daylight, if the sun wasn't, the sun was created and stuck right in the middle of the daylight. The daylight circles the circle, goes around the circle of the earth, and which is separate from the sun. If the sun were removed, there would still be daylight migrating around its circle, around the circle of the earth, as we know. The sun is part of that. It's just stuck right in the middle. And yes, it's absolutely separate. And that's when we get the ebb and flow of daylight as it comes forward, then it gets brighter and then it goes away. Well, that's not part of the sun. The sun is part of that, but they are absolutely separate. And that's the first point I'm agreeing with you on there. I'd like you to talk more. And then as I looked out my window, I could see the sunset. And you know what that looks like? That looks like the lower edge of the northern lights. It looks like that's aurora borealis, only on the low side. In other words, as the white light of the sun goes away, the lower light is still visible. We don't see it during the day because the sunlight, the white light, cancels everything out. But as the sunlight goes away, the lower lights, the lower spectrum lights, they become visible. Interesting observation there. James, please, or anybody else, please talk on that.
Oh, that's correct, right? Like, I mean, we're obviously seeing color, right? And light does not just turn from dark to light. There's obviously that in between, this wide array of colors. And that has to
The
be
spectrum. Yes.
right. And what's agitating that spectrum? Sure, it could be the concentrated light beam we know as the sun. But I do have a question I want to know. Why isn't the moon causing the same effect, the full moon causing the same effect on the noble gases? I'd like to know that. Simply because we're going with the theory that the sun is agitating and
Yes, and I
exciting
have
these
the answer,
gases.
James.
It's different
Do I have
light.
the answer?
Different
It's a
light.
different light. It's a passive light. The moonlight is not
Yeah.
active. The moonlight is passive. It's sucking light in. It's sucking heat. It's a
Exactly.
cold light. So it's passive. It's sucking light in.
Correct.
If there was a black hole, it's the moon. In other words, check that out.
Good point.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Exactly, and the moon is also supposed to be. We know that it's not a reflection from the sun, and so it's auto illuminating. So we discussed this in one of our podcasts the moon podcast, and that how it's reflecting, that is using the UV rays, that is charging itself. It needs the UV radiation to charge itself from the sun, and then auto illuminate. So this could help to understand why the lights are so different. Yep, go ahead.
Here's another concept. Here's another vocabulary I'm going to throw out. What I just thought of is heat sink. When we've got an electric component, most items nowadays have a heat sink. It takes the heat away from the contraption, from the device, and diffuses it into the air. Well, the moon, from what we know, from what I can see, as we know, the firmament, the rakia, and all the stars stuck in it, it's all electromagnetic. The sun is electromagnetic, and so is the moon. The moon acts like an electromagnetic heat sink, SINK. And that's the answer to your question, James. Why does the moon not give off all this extra light? It doesn't give off light because it's sucking the light in. It's sucking the energy in. Therefore, it is a diffuser. There is no and the moonlight is calm. It's a steady light. It's because it's sucking everything in. It means there's no aberration. There's no variation.
That's a great analogy, Rob. The heat sink, because it does. It's cooling everything off. Yeah, very, very nice.
There you go. And yes, I did study electric engineering at West Point Military Academy. There it comes out. For once, it becomes useful.
All right. So getting back to this midnight set. Okay, go ahead, Keith, and then just a moment, Keith. We're gonna introduce Kevin, and then you go ahead. All right, Kevin, how are you, brother?
Very blessed. Too blessed to be stressed. Grateful and thankful. Honored to be on the podcast with you guys. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, James, for joining us. Rob, always a pleasure. Always an honor. Keith, great to see you guys all on here.
Awesome,
What's
bro.
up, brother?
All right, welcome, Kevin.
Keith, go ahead.
And Keith.
I was just going to ask Rob, would you say it's safe to say that the moon is acting like an anode and the sun is a cathode?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's the negative.
Right.
Exactly. The sun gives off heat, and maybe the moon picks up anything that's those wild erratic variables or the extra heat, extra light that's not in there to balance the system. Voila.
Something that me and Rob were talking about the other night, also me and James pointed out, is that whenever there's a full moon, that's when the sun is the furthest away, and then whenever it's a new moon, that's when the sun is closest to the sun.
There you go, Kevin. Talk about how the moonlight appears. Remember we were talking about this. The
Yes,
moonlight is always there, but we don't see it because the white light of the sun drowns it out.
Just like it does the stars.
Correct. Thanks for reminding me. Let me throw this out in front of everybody. I mentioned it to Kevin a couple days ago. This thought occurred to me. When we all know this, when we're in the middle of a city with all the ambient light of the city, we don't see very many stars because the ambient light of the city cancels out the light of the stars. But when we go out into the desert, well, we see a lot more stars out there because there's the lack of ambient light. Well, what does the sun do when it's close to the moon? It's ambient light. It cancels out the light of the moon.
Yep.
That doesn't mean the moonlight is not there. We know the stars are still there. The ambient light, we don't see it. So what it appears, using that paradigm right there, it appears that the moonlight is always there. As the sun gets closer, it's drowning out the light of the moon. That's an observable phenomenon right there. That appears correct. It's worthy of investigation.
No,
it makes sense,
Very, very well said.
Yeah, and it makes sense because at 90 degrees the moon is quarter, half. You see half of the
right.
We can
right,
measure
so
it.
it's
Yes,
accordingly.
absolutely, we can measure it. Yes. We can
So
measure
perfect.
it, which means we observe it. This is the highest form of science. All that garbage from the universities, I can't tell you how much I want to take my university degree and show them how little it matches nature.
Same. I know. Exactly. Right? We're the new scientists.
Yes, we are the flat earth generation, and it's continuous. Yes, but we are as Vikka said, we are the pioneers. Yes, it's never. It appears. Can we say this? It's never been so big as it is now. And now with the internet, it's never going back. They cannot stop. Their empire is coming down.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
And
yes.
I believe this
It's
is
on the way down.
kind of like the House of Cards. You know what I mean? Like we're pulling out the whole foundation when it comes to the truth. Because after this is exposed, like there's no else telling, and there's you know what I mean. There's no more research to keep expanding your mind, to keep going and going.
Absolutely.
Awesome,
right?
bro. So
We recognize
So
flat
speaking-
Earth, we have to recognize. We have to dissect everything else.
oh yeah. So speaking about the sun and connecting with the midnight sun, the sun and the daylight, as we were speaking about, it's a very local phenomena. We have to understand that it's a very local phenomena because when the sun is in the north, there's supposed to be more the winter in the southern hemisphere, and the day have to be much more short. So this in itself shows that it's a very local phenomena with the sun.
And don't forget to mention the analemma. And the moon has an analemma. All the other planet stars, they have a circular motion, whereas the sun and moon have the analemma. They change their rotation throughout the year. The sun, when it's summertime for the northern hemisphere per se, the sun is making a tighter circle around Kolob, which is the North Star, and then in the wintertime for the northern hemisphere, it's making a wider circle around the outer edges of the circle of the Earth, and that's what's called the analemma. Also, the sun is higher from the Earth right now during the closer circle of the summertime for the northern hemisphere. And the observation there is the sun gives out the same heat, so so the Creator made the sun travel higher so it doesn't burn, it doesn't scorch the Earth. Interesting point there.
Exactly. It's supposed to be 2 months of darkness, at least 2 months of darkness in the southern hemisphere, So we really don't know what's happening. I'm not in the southern hemisphere, so I cannot literally say, yeah, this is what's happening. Is it really 6 months of winter, or is there a 24-hour sun in the Antarctica? We don't know. It's
because they won't let us pass. And it happens.
Is impossible. It cannot exist, Vikka. We could say that right now. 24-hour sun is impossible in the southern region.
For sure. And all of the footage of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica is completely debunked. All of it is completely debunked in so many different ways.
You see it, there's clips in all of them.
As is everything else.
Oh yeah.
On first look, it's all garbage.
But look at how funny it is how they won't let you can't go past the 60th parallel south, and that's right where that stuff starts.
Exactly.
We would be able to see that. So
when we
very
can't
interesting.
How about this, Gene? When we can't go observe for ourselves, yet they give us all kinds of material they want to proclaim as truth. If we can't verify, then it's garbage. Period.
It is.
Yep.
So, and like Kevin said, all those videos are terrible. They're not like the ones you see in the north. Very different.
Right, and they all have the breaks in them, like they've been spliced, just like the moon landing, just like the JFK assassination.
Exactly. Yeah, you see shadows change, and there's So that brings up another point. Now they're trying to fake it now. So
Yeah.
that's another
why
point.
is it fake? Why has it
Yeah.
got these force breaks in it? Why?
They should not have that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the first question. Why are these breaks in there? We can't trust this for the breaks alone. Therefore it's false.
Yeah, well, where you got to consider the source though. Who's providing it? McMurdo Station.
Yep, exactly.
PBC and like
when their encyclopedia, remember their encyclopedia of 1958 proclaims the dome 13,000 feet high, 80 degrees south, 90 degrees east. Okay, then it stopped. That statement no longer exists. Why that? Okay, we cannot trust even their proclaimed information. We cannot trust any of it. There we go. Which is nothing new.
No, but it's you have to know what they're saying because there are truths. So you got to be able to have clarity and discernment, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
There's at least a shade of truth. And gentlemen, by the way, I spent 22 years analyzing military intelligence and also making plenty of my own. As long as there's a shred of truth, we can operate on that. A shred of truth, okay? No matter how small, right? That's how it. That's
like you said, Rob, we got to inspect everything. Leave no stone unturned.
One thing I just want to say, guys, when I'm making my observations of the sun and moon, in particular the rise points for the 24-hour daylight, I'm using heliocentric data and the numbers they provide, right? And I have to, because essentially they have to provide the correct information in the form of mathematics and where the luminaries are physically located. They have to. So therefore, what we have to do is do a geocentric translation on this data and verify it for ourselves. So that's what I wanted to say about the data provided, right? It has to have somewhat of a truth, right?
Exactly, because their data is also not 100% correct, James, because they are saying in some places is 6 months and some places in the south they're saying 6 months, but it's about 2 months or 4 months depending on the places in the north and in the south, so
good point. Nothing like first-hand observation, though.
Observation is
absolutely, yes. Observation over indoctrination for sure.
Oh yeah.
Now James,
exactly,
I want to point this out. Every time any of us applies their numbers to the natural observed world, it all falls apart like a deck of cards on the very first look. I'm sure you experienced that.
Absolutely, right? I mean, here's the thing. If you start with the simple equinox sunrise on March 21st and September 21st, you know that is, due east, 90 degrees. And from there, that's what you can bank on for your observations from there, right? And everything else that they provide, is suspect at best, but do you see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, they provide the numbers such as the distance to the sun, but then what I do in my head is they say 93 million miles. Okay, could that be 93 miles, right? Could the moon be 2.8 miles? Is there a shred of truth in their data? I don't know. It's interesting,
James,
right?
Here's an observation for you. Absolutely right on that line. Are you familiar with the video or the documentary called Magnetic Sun? What they did was they took a line of longitude from Nova Scotia down to Argentina with numerous observation points that observed the sun all at the same time of day for an entire year and analyzed all of those. Are you familiar with that documentary, James?
I am, and it overloaded their computer, right?
I was about to say that. It overloaded their computer. And so they simplified it. They got a different computer. And I'll make my conclusion of it. Then I'd like to hear yours, James, as an astronomer. What they found is that the calculations, the observations, because you brought up your observation of the sun, which is oftentimes and for the most part different than the heliocentric observations of the sun that they feed down our throat. We know we can't trust that anyway. But what would the final conclusion of the observations of that same line of longitude is that the sun, the position of the apparent position of the sun does not match along all these lines of longitude. It doesn't match, and therefore the sun is observed differently at each location along this line of longitude, and thus I would make a follow-on conclusion is that when we cannot observe something and chart it on the map, it literally does not exist because we can't chart it. If you see what I mean, what I'm getting at, the sun looks like a phantasm. It looks like it's a lens that appears differently. The sun is different for
That's why you cannot triangulate it, Rob. That's why we cannot never triangulate the sun, because it's not a physical thing.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Vikka. When we can't triangulate it, then if we can't prove it to our own self, then it doesn't exist. Obviously, it does exist, so it has to be something outside of our reckoning. That's the point. If it doesn't match our system, it's outside of our system. We have to recognize it as something that we cannot define. Literally, we cannot define the sun. And I want to hear what James has to say as somebody from the astronomy field. James, what is your conclusion on it? What do you have to add to this?
Well, my initial thoughts are this, guys. The cosmos and the luminaries appear uniquely to each individual.
Yep.
Right? Like the personal atmospheric experience we are having can be
yeah, right. Everything does. Yeah.
Rainbows.
It's just
trees, everything.
It's just punctuated by the fact that, what we are seeing in the cosmos are lights with zero parallax. So therefore,
parallax. I mean, observable, no parallax.
Yeah, on either model, flat or heliocentric, right? There are no variations between the distances in the stars ever.
It just simply does not exist.
Right. So therefore, could we in fact be viewing a personal atmospheric cosmos? And the only thing that we can really elaborate on that is the moon and its apparent face always faces us, right? No matter what. So therefore, is the viewing experience unique to the individual? For sure, right? But it's a little bit too complicated for me to understand right now, but at least going with the theory that it's a personal experience makes somewhat sense. I don't know if you guys agree.
Well, that makes more sense than anything the universities have ever shown to us. Okay. Yep. Their definition is wildly erratic. Okay. We know that. And second of all, let's continuously define by what we can arrive at. Number one, it's individual. Everything is observed individually. And so by all means, let's collect what we can understand all together and analyze each of our experience.
No, this is a lovely conversation because like all of you guys are being like so humble and so kind, so casual, cool. You know what I mean? We're not acting like we know it all. We're asking questions still. You know what I mean?
And we're not charging admission called tuition.
Putting us in debt for how many years?
Yeah. Debt slaves. We're not making
Hundreds.
Anybody here.
The funny thing, I didn't want it to go much off topic, but the moon is supposed to be made in a heliocentric model with a part of the Earth, and it happens to be the same size, or it looks like the same size as the sun. It's a funny thing in astronomy, but it's true.
Yeah, it's 400 times further and smaller or bigger, the sun. So it's the illusion. That's.
Can I just say to this, guys? When you are viewing the sun and moon at the maximum zoom on your Nikon, it occupies the same space on the viewfinder. Exactly. Right.
Dang.
The mathematical chances of those two luminaries being the distances they say they are, impossible. I also cannot zoom in on something 93 million miles away and see sunspots. That's impossible. Right?
Yeah,
light doesn't travel infinitely.
The zoom doesn't go that far, okay? That alone proves it. It's not so far away. The fact that you can zoom in on the stars and the moon, and there goes their 93. There goes their millions of miles of distance.
That's the inverse square of light, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
the inverse square law of light prevents.
Yeah, the inverse square of light.
And light, and not for nothing else, but you know, all of the things that the sun provides, all of the light spectrum that we can see and we can't see, needs a medium to travel through, which outer space does not offer, right?
Exactly
Very
right.
well said.
The ether.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference, but
All
there's
right, getting back to the midnight sun. They say the official information. They say that there is no civilization. There is no people living. Apart from some latitude in the south. Uh, so we know that the nature comparison to the north of the center, we see that the cold is not so intense as it is in the south, because the differences of average of between the summer and the winters, there's an average in the north and then an average in the south. So the nature itself shows that there is life possible in the northern hemisphere, even if it gets cold so much in the winter. That's not happening in the south. We don't see, from the images they show us, we don't see any, because the north is full lush with life, with in the summer, with animals, with rivers, with mountains, with trees, with everything. But there's
birds.
in the south we go more than 60 parallel. We don't know exactly if there is the same kind of nature or no, or whatever they are showing us in Antarctica, right? Anyone wants to add? Yep, go ahead.
Can I say, guys, the heliocentric excuse for the southern winters is not as extreme because of the proximity to the oceans, and that is what keeps those southerly climes warmer. That's what the heliocentric says, but I don't know if that's true.
They
I'm
also
not sure how
say adding just
the north
yeah, go ahead.
the north center is one big ocean, as they claim, but the old maps don't show that. The old map says there's a bunch of mountains up there at the very center, so we can't trust that. But then again, what they tell us is it's all ocean, so there goes that theory. There's as much ocean in the center as there is in the south, so it's just garbage, as we know.
Yeah, Rob. They also say that the climate is much more colder in the south is because it's more sea and less land.
Correct. Yep. But we have contacts now in the south, in New Zealand and Australia, who are willing to do firsthand observations. So we're going to get to the bottom of this, guys. We are going to figure out the true shape of our realm, whether it's an AE circle or a square or a pear or whatever it is. We definitely know it's not a spinning ball. Could you imagine if it was a flat pear? Could you? All that time we were mocking it, but you never know, right? We need to figure out the actual shape, and I think the best way to do that is by studying the rotation of the stars and then doing a live observation of the sun rising and setting in different points of the realm.
Definitely. That's why I was so proud to do that observation with you the other night, James.
Thank you,
for the
Kevin.
record, me and James, we were actually filming Jupiter at the same time. He's over in Canada, I'm over here in New Mexico, and just kind of giving our firsthand point of view of what we're seeing and what angle degrees above the horizon. And like if more people did this, you know what I mean, it would be a huge deal. And for the record, I do have a lot of connections over in South America, so
everywhere.
Well,
but
Kev,
no, I'm just saying, like, we could collaborate and like make more observations to definitely clarify our hypothesis of what we think is going on.
Can I just say, Kev, it starts with those observations, yes, but simple things like the angle of the apparent moons to Jupiter. Are they different from my perspective to yours? From there, we can go to the sun, right? I mean, it's important to consider all three of those things: sun, moon, and the wandering stars, and the constellations, right? And from there, we can establish truth, I think.
Definitely.
I know we're trying to stay on topic. It's very difficult, right, guys? We're talking about the 24-hour sun. I know we keep straying. but it's difficult.
Yeah, the thing is there is no evidence of the phenomena in Antarctica. What is exactly happening there? Because there is no any common person, in that region of the world to really corroborate what's happening. Like in the north, there are people, very near to the circle or very near to the north, where we could say what is exactly happening in the north. But
Hmm.
with the south, we are left with, you know a very few thing with the same as we spoke about, the edited videos of 24-hour sun. Because if the earth is a globe, that should happen. There should be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, but that's not
And it
happening.
would be well documented. It's no different than turn the Hubble telescope back towards the Earth and show people
yeah,
walking in Toronto,
yeah,
Canada, show
yeah.
James waving from his house, and show people from Australia waving from their house at the same time, which will
Mm.
never happen. Hasn't happened, will never happen because it's impossible. It's the fact that it's not so well documented now. It should be by now. Here's another proof that just knocks it out of the spectrum of possibility. The analemma, which
Yep.
is well
Yeah.
known, is so well known, it's so irrefutable that they include it on the globe itself. The analemma is included on the globe. The analemma proves that the sun makes a wider circle in the south. Therefore, it cannot have a 24-hour sun. The wider
Exactly.
circle in the
And
south and the smaller circle in the north when it's summertime in the north. That just proves it all right there.
Completely,
Simple
which is very well documented.
document. It's very well. Yeah, we can have these ideas of further experiments we want to do, and those are great. Let's go make some more. But what we have already, we already have an irrefutable arsenal of evidence against all this.
Yeah, and the topography, the geography, the wildlife would be similar, and they're really not.
Right. Yeah,
That's a good
exactly. What
point.
is the observation? Eric Dubay talks about this, that in the north there's thousands of different types of
Birds and mammals and sea
flora,
life and
flora
all
and fauna.
kinds of.
As we go to the south, they lose thousands of different species. There's
Yeah.
simply some life is almost non-existent at the southern region.
Yeah,
If
same
it
with
were-
There's
plant
more.
life.
There's more people than anything else now. I bet you.
Okay, yeah, good point. More technology than life down there,
You-
or out there rather. So in other words, if the Earth were a globe, the South would look a lot like the North. When in reality, the South is the opposite of the North, because it is the opposite, because it is
Yeah.
a circular plane with lots of the life out there. There you go.
All right,
How
what's
many
that?
proofs do we need? We've
Yeah,
already
right,
shown
right.
5 at
I
least, right?
know. How much?
Yeah, it's the midnight sun in the Antarctica. I say the Antarctica, the outer rig. It's impossible.
exactly, because there are some place, I think it's Ushuaia in the south, that the on summer solstice, the maximum hour of sun, that's one time in a year. Maybe they have a days are a little bit longer in that time during their summer, is not even around 17 hours. That's only on the summer solstice. So imagine, it's impossible to have that 24-hour sun or daylight.
Well, we're gonna find out. I have, a yearning to know, and I think the way we can prove it, guys, is to do that live, real-time observation of the set happening and the rise happening. Where are those 2 points precisely happening on our realm? And we're gonna find out where they are. Right? Like I want to talk to the guy viewing the sunrise, the break of sunlight, as I'm viewing the disappearance of sunlight. That's yet to be done. I would like to know that.
That's great.
Oh, that's a great
Clever,
idea.
clever.
We had a nice run in with the moon about a month or maybe 2 months ago, from California to Utah. Kevin might have been there. I'm in New York, and Vikka was in Spain, and all of us saw the moon at the same time, right before our show started. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that was the idea always, of the World Flat Earth Association, the Fern Group, the Flatten the Curve, and Heliopsychosis. the idea was always the same from the very beginning, is to get together people and do projects and experiments, because we all are situated in different places. We all are right now in different time zones, we and all the
Latitudes.
planets and the stars, whatever we are seeing, so we could actually do real science, but if we all get serious and like collaborate, everything is possible, because we can see so many different differences in all of us of what's happening at a particular time, be it sun, moon, any constellation, any lineup of any of all these luminaries, or there's so many things could be done, right?
You guys, you guys are probably just like me, researching this every day, every night, just fascinated by our realm now. Nature has come alive, That's the
Yeah.
byproduct of the awakening, right? We
Is
have
that,
this.
is that true, James? Now we're more curious than little kids with a popsicle, right?
Yep.
We want to
Yeah,
know
right.
what this really is.
Yeah.
Whereas when we graduate high school or we come out of the universities, we're trained to think we know everything. Whereas now we realize that's all garbage. We got to relearn everything, and the more little bits we learn, the tidbits we learn, how much more there is to learn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Is everybody familiar with it? It's better to know than to believe, than to listen to some other garbage in a school. It's better to know for ourselves than to believe whatever somebody else says. And that's exactly what the Bible says. Prove all things. And there we are.
Agreed. It's a great time to be
Yeah,
alive.
the more you know, the
We
more
are,
you need to know, so
Oh, yeah. Never gets boring.
absolutely.
Exactly,
The
right?
more we know, the more we learn. The more there is to know. The more we learn, the more we know, the more there is to know. And we are. I want to say this: we are in the age of truth. The age of truth is again on the earth, and it will not be taken away again by the Luciferian Rome.
Correct.
If you see what I mean,
Never again.
the truth is not going away. We have the truth, and it is rolling forward. And I would say, as the vision of Daniel, as the stone cut out of the mountain without hands, this is the truth of the Holy Creator. We are professing it. We are science prophets right now, speaking the truth of the Holy Creator.
I'm smiling when you say
Amen.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. And Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the Son of the Most High Creator. That's why we're here. Jesus Christ, flat Earth.
awesome, bro.
Yes,
So
indeed.
anyway, guys, we're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna be right back. Yep, we're having an awesome discussion. Yes, we could be going on forever, but let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Yep.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back, guys, to the show. What an awesome show we're having today. We have Rob, Gene, Keith, Ken, and James with us. And yes, a quick shout out to the people in the chat. There's a few people there: Vibhava, Priyatama, Mark Ban, Effie Nation, Stephanie Campbell, Dr. Frankenstein, some people from Facebook, Serena Hamilton, Lisa Maria Nicholas, Mike, and there's Virginia there, and there's Billy Zig. Hey, Billy, brother, how are you? Yes, Billy is the author of The Elusive Curve. Make sure, guys, you have a copy of Billy Zig. It's also from Flatten the Curve, one of the authors.
The
And then we have
non-existent
Virginia
curve.
there. Virginia there, right? Name isn't important. Then we've got cover to cover with Jeremy Pierce. Then yeah, a few more people from Facebook. Then we got Gary Towner. We got Tommy Rogers. Then it's Rachel Everson, Doug Maurer, Chuck 1984. A lot of new people here. Welcome to the community, guys. Lisa Maria Nicolas, and then is Jay Daddy. Hey brother, namaste. Then there is Mark Hollander, another author of Flat Truth and also star of Flatten the Curve. A big shout out to Mark Hollander. And then there is, yep, a lot of more people. Welcome, guys, to the show. Yes, we are discussing the Midnight Sun. So, according to the heliocentric model, the sphere is tilted on its axis to 23.5 degrees, to the North Pole, always pointing in the same direction, so it doesn't really make sense how they show how the Earth moves in the whole year, the poles changing. And so the thing is, if the globe is true, that should happen the same way that is happening in the north, and that's what is not happening. Right. So, what could be?
The
Yeah,
whole hypothesis on the seasons to begin with is that the sun rays are coming in parallel, and all we have to do is just use our God-given eyes and see that the sun rays are coming in crepuscular, which completely debunks the entire seasons of the globe to begin with.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Any single one of these simple observations, such as crepuscular rays or no parallax observed by the North Star, Polaris is always in the same place. Everything circles around it. Any single one of these observations disproves everything. So this heliocentric theory, it's theory. Our observation disproves any theory. There is no theory because we can see it. When we can see something, the theory goes away.
Yep.
Exactly. And if the parallel rays are coming in parallel from all the way to the sun, the whole Earth, North Pole to South Pole, should have one season at a time.
There would be no seasons.
Right.
Yes, because the variation is so minuscule. If the sun were 93 million miles away, the variation is so minuscule north to south, it would not exist. Vikka, well said, exactly. There would be no seasons, as they claim. Their logic works on kindergartners, on 8th grade students. It works on 8th grade students, but not on us as adults, because we can do percentages. They don't do percentage math, I guess, in 8th grade yet. Oh wait, we learned that in 5th grade, so we should have been able to do it. But we don't think for ourselves in 8th grade. We're not trained to think for ourselves in the Luciferian schools. Let me throw this out. As I've done before. The anagram. University is an anagram of Luciferian.
Luciferian.
Yes, write out the word, the letters Luciferian, and then underneath it, write out the letters of the word university. It's almost the same word. University is an anagram of Luciferian indoctrination. And it started with Plato. It goes all the way back to the Egyptians. The Egyptians created universities to train their mode of government all across the flat earth. That's why we see pyramids, just like the Egyptian pyramids, everywhere across the flat earth, namely Central and South America, because that came from India. The India people took those pyramids over to Central and South America. They exported their Luciferian indoctrination. The Egyptians did. Plato made a university system of it, and continued it. So it's university is Luciferian indoctrination. Another anagram is alien. The word alien is an anagram of Elohim. The alien story is no different than the Elohim story, only counterfeited to come from Satan, Lucifer, instead of the true holy creators called the Elohim.
Voila.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody want to add something before we continue? Yep. Go ahead.
Well, as you guys were talking about the distance to the sun and the heat or the seasons of the sun, it's just a funny thought to me now. I mean, I would have never realized this 5 years ago, but now to think about it, I smile and laugh that, you know, at the equator, you can literally fry and die from the sun, but at the alleged poles, you freeze to death, and it's only a 4,000 mile difference for 93 million miles.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
It's
difference
almost
makes no sense.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Like analyzing the official model of the globe, the diameter of the sun exceeds that of the Earth about 109 times. You know, the Earth would be like a grain of sand compared to the sun. You know, this huge expanse of light, like focusing on a small rotating grain of sand from 150 million miles,
Just
should have a
crazy
huge
that-
cross section. Yeah, go
that's
ahead.
not observed. None of it
That's
is
why.
observed.
That's why Parker space probe drives me crazy.
It's just
Oh, yeah,
crazy that
it's-
we all fell for it.
Drives me
It's just
crazy.
garbage. It's just more garbage. The heliocentrism fails every time we apply math to it. It fails every time. Every time we bring up an example, all we have to do is put real numbers apply real numbers to the heliocentric model. And I'll state that again. As often as we apply the heliocentric model to observed numbers, it fails every time. And it fails not just a little bit, it fails completely every time we look at it. Now, second of all, I want to point this out. Since the early days of heliocentrism, which is 1666, with the quote invention of the theory of gravity, the distance to the sun has increased from thousands of miles to 10 million, 24 million, 40 some million, and then at times it was 98 million, and now they've all agreed 93 million. Okay, the distance to the sun has varied tremendously throughout their life of heliocentrism, but it only started doing this in about the year 1500. Is when the globe theory comes around with Copernicus, which he admitted that he didn't want to publish that anyway because it was garbage. So there we go. The originator of the theory told us himself it was garbage, and he did not want to publish it. There we go.
It's clear, guys, that there's a biblical war of sorts going on, and we're picking apart their lies
Absolutely.
bit by bit, and we are never going to stop, ever. It's becoming more evident to us every day by what we are observing in our everyday experience, and it's just crazy that we all fell for this nonsense, isn't it? Just crazy. I'm so glad to be talking about the truth with you guys, and pretty much anyone who has a brain, right? I mean, craziness
There
that we
you go.
fell for this nonsense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. You know, why did we fall for it? We fell for it because we were in death fear of our grades in elementary or in junior high, right? 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade. We had to memorize everything to get a good grade. That's why we fell for it, because we were victims of the indoctrination, but we're not anymore. We are independent thinking adults, and we can observe the garbage, the fallacy. It's one big fallacy. We can observe it now.
Yeah, me and Rob Taylor were
Well
talking
said.
the other night. We are the modern day philosophers. We are the modern day truthers. We're the ones who are going to push and not stop, just like you said, James.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we are not depending on theories, you know, to perceive our reality. We are trying to understand what we see and what we perceive in reality, not the theories, not the fake science, not the CGI, not the one they want us to believe, you know. So the thing is with the season is like I always spoke about the sun, you know, what's being so far according to their globe model. What we know exactly what's happening in the flat Earth model, like during the northern winter. The winter solstice, the sun is like circling it's in its widest path sorry, over the Tropic of Capricorn. So observers far enough south will experience extended daylight hours, due to the proximity of the sun, but you will still be able to see it rise and set beyond the horizon completely each day, So in fact, that is why the Arctic and the Antarctic climates are so strikingly different due to the drastic unequal amount of sunlight. So that's what is playing the season on our flat earth. So we all have an idea, of how, and that's what we are perceiving. That's what really happening.
Exactly.
I say.
Well, we definitely know it's not a dusty rock or a burning ball of gas. That's just insanity. Goodness.
Yeah,
It's
13
almost
billion years old.
therapeutic to talk with
As
you guys
we
about
observe,
this.
Very cool. Good to
as
have
we
you here,
observe,
James.
we cannot. Yeah, well said. As we observe the sun, the moon, and the wandering stars, I also call them planet stars because that's planet stars, wandering stars. They're no different than all the other stars. They just have a different pattern of circling the North Star. All stars circle the North Star. They have different patterns. We've got the stars that are stuck in the Rakia. We've got the other stars that make a somewhat of a circular path that make the curlicue every now and then towards the center. Then we got the sun and moon, which make an analemma, which is still centered on the North Star. Therefore, all stars are subservient to that North Star pattern. That's scriptural, by the way. Abraham wrote about that. So, long story short, what we observe destroys their theory. Observation destroys their theory. That's my point here. And James, I want to ask you again, James. You're the astronomer guy. What can you elaborate on the circular paths of the planet stars around the North Pole? They each make their own circular path, but they come in towards the middle every now and then. They divert in, they do a curlicue, and then they swing back out to the outer circle. Can you talk that, James?
Yes, absolutely. And it's very interesting, Rob, because all of my observations really started to take off when I established the equatorial rise point of the sun. So therefore, I know that the main big wandering star, Jupiter, tends to rise every night on the equatorial line. And instead of following a traditional equatorial path, it will loop up toward the Tropic of Cancer. So it's absolutely doing an independent arc, much different than all of the sun and moon and the stars. But my point being, guys, is once you establish the firm rise point on March 21st and September 21st, from there you have a basis for your observations. I know now that Jupiter is on the equator, and it continues its path in the night and goes up to the Tropic of Cancer, and then it goes back to the Tropic of the Equator, right? So it's doing that oval as you speak. I would like to know Saturn appears to be down on the Tropic of Capricorn all night. I want to know, does that continue all year? I'm going to find out. Point being,
okay,
if you guys can make that observation on March 21st and September 21st, where the sun rises, and remember that point, I do guarantee that your observations of the cosmos, your intellect will increase because you have a firm basis to start with.
Right.
And
that's
sunrise. You're saying sunrise on March and September 21st?
Correct. Right? Make an observation, and from there you can extrapolate that information and apply it to Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, and you can say, I know that the moon is on the Tropic of Capricorn tonight.
Right. Okay.
Right?
I follow. Yep.
Right. So making that key observation is how I increased my knowledge, and I'd like you guys to do the same thing. I'll remind everyone.
Notes.
Yeah.
You know what, James? You're talking about defining the movement of the sun, and the sun is a star. The sun is a wandering star, like all the others. That's all the sun and the moon and all the other wandering stars. That's all they are. They're closer, and we have much more visibility of them. But still, they're nothing but wandering stars, lights in the sky. Now, James, what you're proposing a definition of their motion. Absolutely, that's what it is. And so, which is much better than any model we have right now, because none of it works, especially in starting with the heliocentric model.
Right. under the full impression that Jupiter is very small and very close to us, right? I'm talking, we know the moon is close and obviously small, and it's just a closer example of what perhaps Jupiter and Venus and Saturn are, right?
Wow.
But imagine a realm
Right.
where Jupiter is literally a couple miles above us, right?
Right.
It's like,
That's
it
great.
blows your mind, doesn't it?
Now,
Yeah.
James, are you familiar that the names of the days of the week in Spanish, they correlate to the height of the planet stars? James, are you familiar
Right.
with that?
I listened to a podcast of yours, and yes, the height, like
There it is.
I mean, is it Sunday? Sun is the lowest. Monday
Yeah.
is the moon second highest. Tuesday.
That
The original work about the height of the luminary actually comes from the Sanskrit text, so that's how they have their name. Maybe Rob know it from the Spanish version, but I have a video maybe a few years back that I have explained in that how it goes according to the height of the days of the week goes the height. Like Sunday is the sun is the lowest, Monday the next, Mars and
Mars,
up to Saturn. The Saturn is supposed to be the highest in the altitude. That's why it's the last day of the week. So and according to these texts, the constellations are supposed to be in one of the middle layer, and the highest is the North Star. The Polaris is the highest of all, according to the text.
Correct.
Maybe it could help in your research about the
and the
luminaries.
center of the dome.
Yep.
It's the highest in the center.
Exactly, that's
And
supposed to
everything-
be the house of
the house of the Most High, and everything rotates around that. Indeed. And there's scripture. There's little scripture that correlates with that observation. Yes.
Yeah, the ancients, they knew what they were doing. That's why that information, the truth that comes from the divine, cannot be
Yes.
suppressed. No matter how much they try, because the truth comes from above. There is no force of this science, speculation science, to go against this divine force of truth and what the reality is according to the most of the texts.
Now let's remember that their quote cosmology, of which heliocentrum is part and parcel of it, their cosmology, Michio Kaku, okay, which is a modern day Japanese Einstein, okay, their order of error is 1 with 120 zeros behind it, which is the greatest fallacy in all known history. Okay, heliocentrism is part of that, comes from that cosmology of more or less, it's guessing. It's a children's fairy tale. That's all it is. And that's what they teach in the universities. Isn't that revolting?
Yep.
Our people, our colleagues, our children at this point, our children, our kids, and we did ourselves, we paid thousands of dollars and we struggled and we memorized and we worked our ass off to learn a fallacy. For 4 years or more, we all studied a fallacy.
Yeah,
And
but you know
that-
what, Rob,
Yeah.
if we didn't study and understand what happened, what they're trying to say, we wouldn't be here right now, bro. Right?
Good
Good
point.
point.
Good point.
So
It's all part of
I
learning.
think about
Learning
that,
is
like, wow,
good.
you can look at it as a waste, but not really, because we can talk about almost any aspect with these people and put them in a corner.
That's a great point. That is a
So,
great point.
yeah.
Anybody who studied it has that to rely upon. And in my case,
Yeah.
I'm a degreed engineer from one of the most well-known engineer schools in the entire world, West Point Military Academy. So when I speak, I remember my lessons from both the chemistry and the studies of light and Einstein and Michelson. I remember the Michelson-Morley and the contraction that they use, which is complete garbage. I remember those days. I remember those discussions. So yeah, you're right about that. You can bring that out in our. It's Lorenz.
You got to know the enemy,
which is just it's complete imagination. They say something shortens as it moves forward. That's complete. Nothing loses itself. What about conservation of mass? Something gets shorter because it moves forward. No, that's complete. That's Luciferian fallacy. Voila, straight from the university, literally.
Yeah,
And they
that's
say
it.
it to us with a straight face too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They
Getting
don't
paid a
even
lot of
think
money.
about it.
Charging admission for it, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more. It is the Platonic University, Plato's University, which was the same thing. Plato starved his students. He made them sacrifice, and he made them live like paupers and literally eat one meal a day so they could attend his quote university and then go out and indoctrinate the rest of the world. Exactly.
Game over for them, guys. It's game over.
Exactly. Game over. And we are the harbingers. We and the millions like us that are willing to go out and preach the truth. Literally, we are preaching the truth of the Most High, and we're preaching the truth of the creation, which leads to the Most High. Absolutely. We are preaching the truth like disciples and like prophets. Exactly.
And there are some information that there is right there, but the people also don't look into it, you know, especially the Globers, because, for example, you know, Captain James Cook went like as far as 71 degrees south, you know, in 1893, you know,
And
up to
26,000 miles,
74.
Vikka.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up. James Cook, his route disproves the midnight sun. There it is, right?
Exactly,
The
because
midnight
none of these navigators recorded that the sun was seen at midnight, you know, in the south. Even Thomas Weissing.
I didn't know that. That's a great point.
voila.
Very cool.
And
Yeah, you know, that's why they won't let us
literally
pass there
hundreds of
too.
examples.
There's so much information past the 60th South this is one reason why they won't let us pass there.
Right.
The whole land is different. It's not
We
maybe parts are like what they're saying, but you know, we've said that we concentrate on the area south of South America, but there's a big area that we kind of just have no clue about.
that
No clue about
if we
most of the
cannot
rest of it.
investigate,
Yeah.
if we can investigate something like Area 51, there's something going on there. Okay, and then we cannot verify. If we cannot verify something, then we cannot trust it. Gee, we can't trust government. We've known that for decades since it was established.
Yeah,
At least since the corporate government was established in the U.S. in 1871. But the international corporate government goes back to Egypt, so we can't trust a word they say. All the way back to Egypt.
right.
The times of the Egyptian Empire is what I'm talking about. Hey, does anybody, speaking of midnight sun in the south, Vikka, this would be a good topic to bring up. Maybe we could bring it up now, a subtopic. Jarl Andhoy. Jarl Andhoy had a ship, an expedition headed to the southern Antarctica, if we want to call it Antarctica, but that's a misnomer. That's a bad name for it. The Southern Circle, okay, the outer circle. Jarl Andhoy's expedition was seized, and they were imprisoned and fined. That's all I know about it. Does anybody else have better information?
What year?
This was early 1900s, before 1950, I think.
Okay.
Jarl Andhoy, and that's Jarl with a J. So that it looks Dutch to me. Jarl Andhoy. I could look it up right now.
Was it a father and son?
I don't know if it was father and son. All I know is the name Jarl
All right.
Andhoy.
I'm not sure.
It's commonly known.
Oh yeah, there are a few people who have tried to go, and you know, we really don't know if some of those trips are real, you know. So we
Exactly. I just want to say that's, making these observations. I am of the theory that who knows if even Antarctica even exists, guys. Right? I mean, no one's actually that we can trust has actually been there, and their fictitious beliefs, creating this theory that there's this massive planet or continent on the bottom of our realm. I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust
James.
James,
I got this for you. What's the shape of Antarctica? It looks like the human brain, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean,
have you ever noticed
well,
that?
the
It's
globe
because it's all
version
in your
does.
head. It's all imagination. You see it? Because it's all in your head. That's why they're mocking us with that shape. Obviously, it's a nice ring, which would all the ancient maps say, right?
but even on the flat,
yeah,
right?
but
Even on the flat,
yeah,
do you have
but
any proof that Antarctica exists? Yes, we see
Exactly.
video.
I am one of the biggest deniers of the ice wall. I am not saying it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Maybe it's some part. Those are supposed to be more icebergs. Than more ice walls. So it could be a total disinfo. But what we have to understand also is about the sun. That if the sun is going in the south, and how could it be that cold too? Because
Mhm.
if the sunlight is reaching from the Tropic of Cancer till the north, till at least some part of the north, at least is some hours of the day is reaching. So the same way it has to reach from the south, from the Tropic of Cancer to the maximum distance it could. So and that could create other kind of nature ecosystem, and so everything is possible. That about the more lands, extra lands. How could it be that apart from Antarctica, everything is just dark and so cold? So we can't really believe what is
Mhm.
happening beyond the 67th parallel, or 60th parallel south. So
Correct.
everything could be a freaking disinfo. So we have to see what the luminaries is one way to try to understand. Just my take.
Yeah. Exactly, guys. Yeah. Trust nothing but your own observations and compare them with people that you trust. That's the way we're going to get out of this, and that's the way we're going to make progress.
James, I
Oh
got a
yeah,
question for you.
and
Go ahead.
Um, have you ever seen at during the night? Have you ever seen stars behind through the moon?
No. And I'm
Okay.
going to be honest with you guys. Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I've looked hard, but not hard enough, because the amount of times that the moon occults a star
Hmm.
and clear conditions, and being prepared for
Yeah.
this type of phenomenon has not
Right.
presented itself to me yet. I
Okay.
don't believe it happens. I truly do not believe it happens, but that's a personal bias, and I'm going to leave it as it needs to be investigated.
Excellent.
How do you
Okay,
feel? Do you feel that stars
interesting.
are?
There's a lot of photos of it. I've just taken it for granted. You're the first guy, James, that has claimed that you haven't seen it. So
That's, yeah.
that's interesting.
Only because, Rob, as I said before, I trust nothing and no one unless I see it for
Well, and
myself.
well done. Prove all things.
Yeah,
By all
right.
means, absolutely. So what about the lunar wave, James?
I don't believe it either. I've filmed the moon thousands of times, but I'm not saying I'm against the idea. It's just that even though, that Crow 777 has filmed it and maybe some other people, I have yet to see anything like that. The closest
Okay.
I've seen is like the moon, the outer rim of the moon seems to shimmer, and that changes on a night to night basis based upon, I
Okay.
think, atmospheric conditions, obviously. Sometimes the shimmering of the moon is faster, sometimes it's slower, but definitely not. I've never seen a wave traverse the surface of the moon from bottom to top. Never. And I personally don't think that's possible. I think that's a bunch of bullshit, to tell you the truth, the lunar wave. But I can't prove it yet. Of course, I need to see it with my own eyes. I think that's a psyop, as
Really?
is the stars through the moon. I do not believe either of those things are happening.
I too don't believe in seeing the stars to the moon, because we had one podcast maybe a few years before with Dave Marsh. I don't know if you guys know him. He does a lot of photography of the moon. So, and
Yep.
we had a quite a long discussion about it, And according to him, it's just a reflection of the same light, of the moon on the craters, or the supposed craters, So a light phenomena. So and and then during the eclipse, there are some people who claim during the eclipse or before. There are different mixed up opinions about it, but I'm not really convinced that we could see through the moon too.
I
If
agree.
anything, if anything, the idea, the concept of seeing a star through the moon supports the obviously supports the flat Earth model and not the heliocentric garbage theory, because as the sun, if the moon is a lens, then theoretically, okay, one could see through it, because if the lens, if the light goes away, one can see through it, because so that, in other words, it supports the flat Earth reality instead of the heliocentric theory, because it shows that the sun or the moon is not a solid object. If nothing else, it supports that.
Well, this
But
is
there is also two difference, about the phases. One phase is like there are people claiming they see it through during a full moon, they see a star through the moon, and there are people who say they see it when it's in a half shade, or it's waxing or waning, and there's some place so you could see in the dark part, you could see that. So there are different ones. So what do
Really,
you think, James?
I didn't know that some
Oh
people
yeah.
claim they can see the star through the full moon. I didn't know that.
I
I
haven't
thought
heard
it was
that
in the
either.
moon phases.
I have a theory on that, guys. The moon seems to have bright spots. You've probably seen them. It appears like white dots. Could
Right.
it in fact be that we're looking at? I don't know, right? I filmed the moon many a times, and it appears to me like there's new features. Whereas, no, it's probably just the angle of light. But I do want to say that, is the moon self-luminous? Probably, but it's also probably also reflecting sunlight, and it also is probably catching some earth shine. So it's a combination of all three, right? Mostly though self-luminous, I would say. And what you were saying about the stars through the moon, I don't believe it's possible, because although yes, I believe that it's an apparition at best, or perhaps a projection or a reflection, I do believe that there's some solid qualities to the moon, so I am yet to see stars through the moon ever. But I will keep you posted, guys.
Right. Thanks.
But yeah, rant complete.
As
Moon rant complete.
Yeah, as we mentioned in the about the moon, about the radiation and charging of through the sun, that it depends on the sun. So the phases could be because of the electromagnetic central magnetic fields could be playing a part in blocking those light
Correct.
emitted back.
Correct.
Okay, so there's a so even the stars seeing closer or feel like it's seeing through the moon could be in just an effect because of that, because of the light, the radiation, and the electromagnetism. So could be.
Exactly. Could be. But do want to say, every time I film the moon, every single time I learn something new, whether it's just, the argument of convexity versus, concavity. Sure, it appears to be convex, and sure, it appears to have some solid-like qualities, but in the same breath, we have to consider at all things at this moment that it could be, in fact, transparent, and it could be not actually there. Imagine that,
So you
right?
should check out, James. You should check out one of my video called "Lunar Eclipse on Flat Earth."
Yeah.
The shadows that are falling on the moon doesn't show that it's a spear, because it's a very flat
Right.
shadow,
There you go.
because of the sine wave effect. So maybe check it out. Maybe it could help.
Yeah.
Some.
Again, Vic, our observation obliterates. Let me say it again. Our observation obliterates the heliocentric theory.
Yeah.
The heliocentric fairy tale is what it is.
Exactly. That's why yeah.
James, would you talk on the temperature of moonlight?
Well,
Isn't it cold? Isn't it cold light? Are you familiar with? Have you done an experiment on that? Do you have anything to say on that?
I have yet to do that experiment, but I'm very well versed on the background of it. Essentially, the moonlight should be, like the theory is the moonlight should be cooler moonlight is actually cooler than moon shade. That is something we can do by doing an experiment with water in glasses using a thermometer. That would be interesting. Yeah, of course.
Many people have done the digital thermometer and shown that, look, this shows direct moonlight is colder than moon shade, which means direct moonlight is sucking heat from everything.
And the moon being magnetic, sun electric, I do believe, but it also applies to ourselves, right? I mean, there's an electromagnetic phenomenon going on the cosmos, sure, and there's an electromagnetic phenomenon going on in our very reality, right? Our bodies are electromagnetic. So are the luminaries.
Yes, life begins with electricity. Absolutely, electromagnetism. There's even a long. I think it's a 60-minute video, and I have the link to it. The Earth is a battery, and so are we. That's the title of it.
Yeah, I love it.
The Earth is a battery, so is our body. And what is our nerve? What is our nervous system? It's bioelectromagnetic impulses. That's what the brain is. There we go.
And I don't know if you guys do it very much, but staring at the moon barefoot, connecting the circuit, right? Do you guys do a lot of that?
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do it with the sun, the stars, even, right? Who's to say that the stars are not affecting us electromagnetically?
Yeah,
And the way
to a
to
lesser
turn
effect.
that on is go barefoot, I feel.
Great point there. The sun or the moon's been full for the last few nights here. That's a great idea. Go out and try that out. I think I will.
Never stops surprising us, guys. The mysteries of the cosmos and how they are deeply connected to our very being, right? It's just waiting for us to tap into it.
Exactly. But the thing is, they're only mysteries because society has been dumbed down over the years. The ancients, they knew it. They knew all these things. We don't know it because we've been dumbed down by the Holy Roman Luciferians. How about that? That's the first time I said that. The Holy Roman Luciferians. That's awesome.
No, it's true though. You know, these little tiny things we could be doing, like I said, we've said, lick a seed before you plant it, say a prayer to the plants and stuff like that. Just these little things that could change so much. Guys like you should be running the world. Honestly,
everything is for a reason. We know, as you say, Genie. You know, not even the seed. Everything, every luminary, everything around us is for a reason and is affecting us in every way. You know, in every day of our life, as we spoke about that, we being the light being, because we need that sun energy. To everything that grows, everything that moves, need that energy of the sun to evolve, to live, you know, like the light. And as we spoke about, we in a way being minerals, in a way, you know, kind of, you know, as we already spoke about. So it all has its effect, you know. The moon cycles are there for everything, from the women's, from their cycle, to the plant cycle, to the seeding, to the pruning, to the harvest. So, and the tides, and there's so many things interconnected. The our north center for being our brain to be at the north and not get lost, for us to, you know, the electromagnetic waves and radiation, everything that coming from the north is locating us on this flat plane where all the navigations is happening, you know. So everything is for a reason, and we are part of this ecosystem. We are the organism of you know, of this part. So how could we be different from it, you know? So the heliopsychosis model is just to get away that we lost from our north, you know, be just rolling and in a roller coaster, lost all our life running about not the most important thing, and just you know what I mean. So it's even in a way, it's just total disaster. So
it is, and that's what I mean when I say that. I really mean that. You know, if guys like you were running the world, this place would be so awesome.
You know what?
We would understand these things together.
Thanks, brother.
And along the line of Plato's Republic, that's how all governments of the world. Notice the communist countries, China and North Korea, they call themselves the People's Republic of China, and then the People's Democratic Republic of North Korea. Gee, we like to think we are republics in the Western quote democracies, but we use the same term for our governments, republic, as the communists do. Guess what? They're all the same damn people in charge, because it's Plato's Republic. All governments of the world are modeled on Plato's Republic. How about, Gene? You know what you're talking about? You're talking about setting up a flat Earth Republic, which is called the Holy Republic of the Most High Creator. And I agree. So, Gene, I'm with you on that. So, but I want to bring out one of our comments. Vikka, you can see the comments as well. Facebook user said this: moonlight is cold. That's a fact. He said he said that is a fact. So I want to reference that in our comments. Facebook user
Excellent.
said that.
Very cool.
Yes, indeed.
Voila.
And sunlight in actuality is not, well, the sun apparently, I don't know if you guys agree, but the higher you get, it should be the warmer it is, and that's not the case. So is in fact the sun hot? We don't even know that, right?
Gee, that's a
Right.
great observation there, James.
Yeah.
What do we know about adiabatic cooling? 2 degrees colder every 1,000 feet. That's a
a big
general norm
difference.
as we go higher.
Right.
No, that's
Yeah.
because when the radiation it sends doesn't heat up until it hits something physical, and when that's the ground and the buildings and stuff like that, that's what gets hot from that radiation, and
Right.
that's what radiates up. Otherwise, it's cold.
And that's where the theory fails, because as our solid object gets closer to the sun, we should get warmer. As if we're at a campfire, we get warmer as we approach the fire, right?
Yeah.
But the opposite is true with the sun and the earth. Gee, how does that work? You know, that defies. That's another pure proof that their heliocentrism is nothing but heliopsychosis. Thank you for the name of your show, Vikka. Absolutely, it's a children's fairy tale.
It's great.
That's all it is.
Yeah, as we spoke about the heat, we know that it's also very local phenomena. You know, it's very low phenomena. That's why the more higher we go, the lesser it is. And that the same thing with the daylight and the sunlight. You know, it's very local. So, and also that yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to mention one difference between daylight and sunlight that everybody could check out is on a really cloudy, rainy day when everything is covered with clouds. You still get daylight, but you can't tell where the sun is at high noon, right? And the shadows are different with no sunlight. So there's a couple things you can see at any given moment during a big storm wherever you live, how the difference between sunlight and daylight really are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I didn't want to forget to say that.
Think about this.
Sorry.
This is observable. As the sun goes away, we still have light, and then it's behind the sun. The sun is just the center moving star within the daylight. The daylight is obviously patently different than the sunlight. Yes, the sunlight is white. The daylight has different shades of light. Around the edges, we see the lower vibrations, the lower frequencies, which give us the different color. But in the middle, it's dominated by the white light of the sun. That alone tells us that they're absolutely different.
And it really does bring
Vikka,
and take the heat with it, though, right?
Yeah, the heat comes with the sun, but the
heat
light
comes and
with
goes
the daylight,
with it.
which is the circle of. Right, because the sun is placed smack in the middle of that daylight, but they are patently different as we observe. And Vikka, I'm looking at some great comments by Dmitry Martinov. Vikka, would you mind make some comments on there? Recognize Dmitry, he's making some good comments on there. I can't look at his comments and talk at the same time. Maybe you can.
But which one? There are a few comments, Rob. Which one?
The few at the bottom. I just want to recognize Dmitry Martinov is making some great comments.
Okay, so I'm going to read a couple of them. I'm highlighting them. All right, one by one. The first one is here.
I see one. I love it. It's a war about saving your soul. It absolutely is.
Yeah, it's a war. It's a war between
Go ahead and read.
Jesus Christ versus Lucifer. That's what the war is. That's the conflict.
We talk about this quite a lot on the phone, Kev. You know, the bigger picture of what is going on here, why the deception, and how they've been able to do this, and uncovering the mystery, right? I mean, I wish you guys could hear some of the conversations we have. It's great, man. I do.
Well, yeah, you know what you could do? You could record those conversations, or invite. You know, we could or go live. We could go live with it.
Let's do it. I think we will.
Exactly. Impromptu. Literally, Kevin and I have great conversations. We could do a 3-way conversation and jump on StreamYard and put it on here. And
I'm up
Vika,
for
we
it.
could put it on your Heliopsychosis. If you give us a link, we could reach out to you and do that. That's a great idea.
Well, whoever
Oh
is
yeah.
pulling, go ahead.
No,
Whoever
go
is
ahead,
pulling,
James.
I feel that whoever is pulling these deceptions are aware that people like us are exposing them, right? And they are
Yeah,
literally, you know, doing what they feel is they're in panic mode is what I feel, and I
they are
feel
in
that
panic.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the
And
They,
th-
they,
the
they
the
see us
thing.
coming. They see us coming, and people like us. Yes, they do.
oh yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, as long as they keep us fighting for our differences,
Right.
there is not going to be easy and almost
Vika,
impossible
are you
because the
talking about
humanity, the humanity
divide
is
and conquer?
so, yeah. That's how it is, and I think it's very very difficult because we every human being are so unique. Forget about same race or same country or same, you know. So it's very difficult that we can ever all of us forget the differences and become one, because that's the only way to end this whole drama that is going on in the world right now from past 500 years to now, what we know of in our timeline. Okay. So so it's so advanced stages it is in. That's why we are in our advanced stages of, we of uncertainty, of what's going to happen in the near future. With, I don't want to use the hot words, what we've been going on from past few years, so all is the same reason, because we want to be, everybody want to be different, and nobody wants to see the similarities, and nobody wants to become one, because it's so much ingrained in all of us in every aspect, being it from as I mentioned, from being a person to our neighbors, to our community, to our country, to the world, so
Everything's Coke and Pepsi, right?
oh yeah, the
There you
more,
go.
yeah, as we said it, as we mentioned. Yep, go
Dialectic.
ahead, Rob.
I'm just throwing this in there. The Hegelian dialectic, Coke or Pepsi, probably the same group owns both of those companies.
Certainly.
Oh yeah, yeah. We spoke about it too. Also, we had some amazing conversation that this is a thing. They're feuding the both sides, So we will never really know the real ones, But we don't. It doesn't matter to know the real one unless we don't get our acts right on our from starting from our personal self to everything we do and everything we say and everything we way we do things. And so that's where it needs to change, So everybody wants to change the world but doesn't want to change itself, in a way, because there's a lot of sacrifice and compromise and understanding and respect. The only thing, can save us is by this and with love. So we
Very
see what's
nice.
happening, guys. We're gonna be we're gonna be having some last words here, and about what we had a general conversation today, and we're gonna be wrapping it up, guys. So who wants to go
Yes,
first?
indeed. Vika, if you don't mind, I'll take that spot. I need to make a phone call here in a little bit. I need to call my boy.
Okay. All
And
right.
my nightly, my boy. But anyway, final note from me: the midnight sun at the southern outer edge is impossible with all the observed proofs that we've mentioned. These are elementary proofs, right? The voyage of James Cook, that proves it. The analemma of the moon and the moon and the sun, which are widely and they're irrefutably recognized, they're fact. Those points prove that there is a midnight sun. We know this. This is confirmed in the northern latitudes, Alaska, Finland. We know there's a midnight sun up there, but we've never observed midnight in the southern regions. So that being said, we cannot observe it. If we cannot observe it, it doesn't exist. So that being said, that's my main point. With all the examples that we've mentioned before, all of our observation proves that the midnight sun in the southern region, the outer region, does not exist. My final point is this: Jesus Christ is the Son of the Most High. If we all follow Him, He is the Redeemer, Savior, the Creator. That's my final point. Jesus Christ, flat Earth, and I'll leave it with that. Thanks, Vikka. Thanks for all your work. Nice talking to everybody else. Gene and James, Kevin, Keith, and everybody else listening. Thanks for all the comments. Nice talking with you guys. Back to you, Vikka.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you, buddy.
Awesome, brother. Always great to have you and all the inputs. Oh yeah, who's going next?
I'll say good night to everybody. Thanks for spending your time, everybody. It's good to have you back, and I hope you have a good week. Vikka, thanks for having me, bro. This was a really great topic, and we could have gone on and on about it too. It was good to see everybody tonight. James, nice to have you here. I hope you come back. And yeah, it showed, the 23.4 degrees is a number play with these guys that it doesn't really exist, but we would see it down south, and they're the only ones providing any videos. It's all choppy, and there's up to seven countries up north that have the 24-hour sun. So it's an interesting topic, and I was glad to be part of it. Hope you guys had a lot of fun, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Vikka.
Thanks, Genie. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, Jeannie. Always a pleasure too.
Thank
Who's
you.
going next?
Want me to go, guys? I just wanted to say thank you kindly, Vikka, for inviting me. Kevin, nice to meet you both. And, well, obviously, Kev, I've talked before, Jeannie and Keith. Pleasure. And where everyone can view what I'm doing is on my YouTube page, iJag9. And I'm currently invested in 2 projects. What I'm working on is establishing the true rotation of the stars in the northern hemiplane. I want to know, is it in fact clockwise or counterclockwise? I endeavor to figure it out. The other project I'm working on is establishing the true the set point, view it in real time with someone viewing the sunrise. I think both of those things, the combination of the sunset and the sunrise and the star trails, will help us establish the true shape of our realm. YouTube, iJag9, thanks so much for having me tonight, guys. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, brother. Was great to have you and all the input. Yes, a lot of things to discover and still get the truth to the people. And yes, thanks for doing a great job, brother, with your work. And
Thanks, Vikka. Anytime, brother. Thank you, man.
Awesome, bro. Who's going? Kevin, Keith?
I can go. James, good to meet you. I'll definitely check out your channel and promote it to the people that I speak with. One of the last things I wanted to mention is the JFK to Moscow flight. If you just go to YouTube and do a search for time-lapse JFK Moscow flight, several of them will pop up. But what you can see there is you can see the sun going into circuit around the north, and you can't see the sun itself the entire time, but you can see the daylight the entire time. You can see the effects of the sun from the entire flight. I don't know, the flight is hours long, and they reduce it down to about a 4-minute time lapse. And that's just, to me, that's one irrefutable proof that the sun is moving over us and we're not moving at all. So just go, everyone listening, it's a great little video to look at, use in your conversations with others.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So thanks for having me here, Vikka. It's good to be with you guys again.
Thanks, Keith.
Awesome, Keith. Yeah, great. Always to have you too, brother. Yes, I know that video. It's an awesome one. You could literally see the sun just going along all the way through the flight and it just disappearing below the horizon a bit and then again rising again. It's also a good way to see how far you are seeing, in a way. If we could pinpoint that point of light where it is 90 degrees about any country, So you are literally seeing the whole kind of the circle, as you say, and it's a good way of really measuring distance too. There is no curve because there's literally very far the sun. That for me, that video is one of a way of proving that view or that observation is more than 6,000 kilometers or something like that. Thanks, brother, for being here. Kevin. Kevin, brother, are you there?
Flat realm to Kevin. Can you speak? Kevin, are you there? Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Yep. There you have it. The midnight sun. It's we don't have any real like truth, evidence, or info that there is a 24-hour sun. If the globe model is saying that there is a 24-hour sun in the south, so we could be sure that it's not happening there. There are some
Check.
extra hours of light possible, maybe because of the dome. Because of the sun reflecting the dome, and there is some light of some extra hours could be possible, but 24-hour midnight sun there in south is almost, I think, impossible. So we really don't know what is happening there because they don't let us. So as we spoke about, the extra lands, where is this light going exactly? Because so there are many questions more than answers about what is really happening apart as the extra lands or beyond the known world, apart of the 60th parallel south. So yeah, and we could just say for sure that we don't know that if there is a 24-hour sun, and as we have it in the north with all the vegetation there is and the lush life there is, even the Eskimos live there even in the coldest part, but there they don't even let, and they say that nothing exists. So it's still going to be a mystery. So thank you guys for tuning into Heliopsychosis podcast. Make sure everyone check it out next week with an awesome show of Heliopsychosis. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Keith, Kevin, and James. Yes. And thank you, everyone in the chat. See you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Love you
Good night.
guys.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Night, guys. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Astronauts to the moon.
Houston, we have a problem.